Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Goro-Goro and Satoru. It is a 3 mana 3/4 and its triggered ability will enable our win con. Because whenever one or more creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn deals combat damage to a player, create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. To make sure that our creatures that just entered are able to attack immediately, it also has an activated ability. For 2 mana, creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Goro-Goro and Satoru is a really cool team-up commander, because we are in Grixis colors, but we also play a very aggressive game plan, which makes this quite a unique deck. In the list that I have created, you will find a bunch of mana acceleration simply to be able to play Goro-Goro pretty quickly, and then follow it up with really powerful creatures that will enable its triggered ability. For example, Elturel Survivors, a 4 mana 0/4 with Trample and Myriad, and as long as Elturel Survivors is attacking, it gets +X/+0, where X is the number of lands defending player controls. This is probably the best creature in this deck, simply because it has Trample, which will most likely ensure that we will connect with a player, and in addition to that it also has Myriad, so we will most likely deal combat damage to all of our opponents, which will lead to 3 Goro-Goro triggers. We play Sheevan Devastator, a 1 red and X/0/0 with flying and haste, and it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. This is a very flexible creature in this deck simply because we can decide by our own how much we want to pay into the X. So either we will bring it out in the early game as a small creature just for the connect trigger of Goro-Goro, or we can also later pump more into the X to have another powerful dragon on the battlefield. We play Siege Gang Lieutenant, a 4 mana 2/2 with Lieutenant, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Those tokens gain haste until end of turn. Keep in mind that those tokens will stick around, and it is also a sacrifice outlet, because for 2 mana and sacrificing a goblin, it deals 1 damage to any target. I do like Maestro's Diabolist, a 3 mana 1/4 with Death Touch and Haste, so it can also serve as a great blocker when you are behind in the game. And whenever it attacks, if you don't control a devil token, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. As you have seen earlier with the Survivors how powerful Myriad is, we also gotta play Goldlust Triad, a 5 mana 4/3 with flying and Myriad, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Gaining a bunch of 5/5 red dragon spirit creature tokens is exactly what we want, and making even more treasure tokens to keep a bunch of counter spells ready to protect our board is just perfect. A creature that you cannot miss in this deck is Gingerbread, a 1 mana 1/1 with haste, and for 1 mana it can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. Later on you can also pay 2 mana, tap it and sacrifice it to gain 3 life. I have tried to balance creatures for a low mana invest to get our Goro-Goro connect trigger, and also more powerful creatures that are more mana intensive, simply to be able to adjust to the current board state if we need interaction ready. Due to the fact that we create a bunch of tokens, we also play a lot of supportive enchantments and artifacts. For example, Echoing Assault, a 5 mana enchantment, and creature tokens you control have menace. Furthermore, whenever you attack a player, choose target non-token creature that's attacking that player. Create a token that's a copy of that creature except it's a 1/1. The token enters tapped and attacking that player, and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. If we want to cheat out some of our creatures to get back into the game, we can also play Sneak Attack, a 4 mana enchantment, and for 1 red mana you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste, sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. A really cool and unique enchantment is Rite of the Raging Storm, a 5 mana enchantment, and creatures named Lightning Rager can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. And at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player creates a 5/1 red elemental creature token named Lightning Rager. It has trample, haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature. To create even more dragons, we play Determined Iteration, a 2 mana enchantment, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, populate. The token created this way gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. If the dragon that we just populated connects, we will get another Goro-Goro and Satoru trigger, so it's not even too bad if we have to sacrifice the original created copy. We play Urabrask's Forge, a 3 mana artifact, and at the beginning of combat on your turn put an oil counter on Urabrask's Forge, then create an X1 red Phyrexian horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on Urabrask's Forge. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. Another really cool card is Infantry Shield, a 3 mana artifact equipment, and equip creature as Menace and Mobilize X, where X is its power. Mobilize will create 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that are attacking, and since they don't specifically have to attack the player that you are attacking with the equipped creature, you can send those red warrior creature tokens to other players to get even more Goro-Goro triggers. Let's talk about Carddraw. Not only do we create a bunch of tokens that are tapped and attacking, we can also then ninjutsu cards in. For example, Ninja of the Deep Hours, a 4 mana 2/2 with ninjutsu for 2 mana, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. We want to flash in Enduring Curiosity, a 4 mana 4/3 with flash, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Furthermore, when it dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and it's an enchantment. Due to the fact that we are a very aggressive deck, we played Chart a Course, a 2 mana sorcery, draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. Another card that we can ninjutsu in is Ingenious Infiltrator, a 4 mana 2/3 with ninjutsu for 2 mana, and whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. A great blocker that replaces itself and that can also be used for ninjutsu is Baleful Strix, a 2 mana 1/1 with flying and death touch, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Depending on what we need, we play Frostcliff Siege, a 3 mana enchantment, and as it enters, choose Jeskai or Temur. Jeskai says whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card, and Temur says creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample and haste. In addition to us playing a bunch of creatures and having a bunch of creatures enter the battlefield, we can also play a bunch of ping effects, like Warstorm Surge, a 6 mana enchantment, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Not only do we create dragons, we also play them, so we play Terror of the Peaks, a 5 mana 5/4 with flying, and spells your opponent's cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. We are a dragons deck, so we also play Dragon Tempest, a 2 mana enchantment, and whenever a creature you control with flying enters, it gains haste until end of turn. Furthermore, whenever a dragon you control enters, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of dragons you control. You want to win more? You get it. We play Full Throttle, a 6 mana sorcery. After this main phase, there are 2 additional combat phases. At the beginning of each combat this turn, untap all creatures that attack this turn. If we made 3 connect triggers happen in our first combat step, we can cast Full Throttle for 2 more additional combat steps, followed by activating Goro-Goro and Satoru for its activated ability to give all of our creatures haste, which will most likely be enough to kick at least 1 player out. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Goro-Goro and Satoru. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I should feature next. Make sure to check out my deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.